Hello, everyone. Welcome. Alicia Brasher here at Cosmic Gateway. I am super excited to bring you this episode. Um, so, I just want to give a big thank you to Matty for joining me here, and he's going to be talking and sharing a little bit about his journey and where he's at. And this sort of runs into the themes of what I've been talking about recently about coming into completion, full cycle, full circle, whatever you want to call it, the reversals, being able to go along our awakening journey and coming back into reintegrating into our life in a much more holistic, grounded, more magical way. Now, the backstory is, and you don't know this, Maddie, I was saving this one. For about a month now, I was getting this little intuitive nudge guide to start to do a series of videos that was just going to bring in people who have a really cool story to share around this theme. So I was getting told to, well, I was getting told that I would be doing it, and I was kind of questioning, like, where do I find these people? How do I go about doing that? And I was told, don't worry, they will find you. So fast forward about a month later, we've reconnected. So we connected about a year ago, and we had every intention to sit down and do a video recording. It would have been very, very different 12 months ago because I think Maddie has some more amazing things to share. And the reason that I was being guided to find, or these people find me and to put out these videos, is because I think it's people need to remember why we are going through this, why, the why in the path of awakening and ascension, and also to boost a little bit of morale. I know it's been a rough couple of years for people, and I think when you start to hear people's personal, everyday people personal stories, it really can spark some inspiration. So that's enough of my little intro. Maddie, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Oh no, thank you, Alicia. It's awesome to be here, mate. It's yeah, one of the best things I've done was lucky enough to contact you last year, what, almost 12 months ago to the day.
Yeah.
So and yeah, that session I did with you, mate, was just like it was the kick in the backside that I needed to get myself into action. And yeah, it really set me up with a it's not like you told me what to do or what to expect, but it was that clearing of the energy that allowed me to find the tools that I needed to be able to set in place my own healing and my own journey ahead. So it was a really good grounding to yeah, and I really appreciate that. Like as I said, without your help, it would have been impossible to find.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you're originally a Melbourne boy. You're not living in
Yes.
Australia anymore.
No, no, certainly not. I'm living in Phuket, Thailand, and yeah, I've been in Thailand pretty much probably 11 of the last 13 years.
Mhm,
And yeah, prior to that, I was a policeman in Melbourne.
mhm.
I was a policeman for about 12 years.
Okay.
On
So
the Yeah,
maybe that's where we'll begin, because I'd love you to give not necessarily a brief introduction, but let's start where the story began. For what's most relevant, and I'm sure people would be really curious. Obviously, uh, well, before we go into it, it would be I imagine that it would be quite difficult for you to watch, being that you're part of the police force here in Melbourne, and to what it was then, and maybe to have seen what's gone on here in Melbourne over the last couple of years. I imagine that would be quite confronting for you. Um,
yeah, yeah. What can I say? It was devastating to see, because some of those people I'd worked with, the formation of the people that were going around in the Kevlar suits and everything. That was one of the last places I worked. That was at the formation of that particular unit, and you could see. And I left in 2010. That was when that unit first started, and you could see what they were gearing up for. Because when I first joined the police in 1998, started 99,
mhm.
around that time. And back then, policing was all about community policing. It was about getting to know the people in your area, working with them. You know, if people have got a problem, come and see you, come and talk. It was a completely different way of running business. But then slowly that I seen that progression happen where it went from community policing into just give everyone tickets, into starting to militarize the police. Like okay, perfect example. When I first started in the job, you do your first 4 weeks working in the city. When you're on foot patrol, you have to wear lace up court shoes. They've got no grip on the bottom of the shoes. Like they're just normal shoes that you'd wear to a wedding. And if you're trying to trace somebody down a nose, man, it's near on impossible. But we weren't allowed to wear boots because they were seen to be too aggressive. Yeah, like boots that were supposed to be made for that type of work. Yeah, we weren't allowed to wear them because they were seen as too aggressive. Same as even the writing of police on a police car. Back then, it was capital P and lowercase OLICE because they said if they wrote it all in capital letters, it was too aggressive. So that's actually how far that goes back.
Wow.
So I don't think people realize that it was completely changed.
When did you see that? When did you notice that? Was that when you decided to leave, or?
Yeah, look, look, around the time Christine Nixon come in. I don't know if you remember Christine Nixon. She became the chief commissioner in around 2004, and that's when there was a distinct change. There intact. Yeah. So we used to call her Big Kev. I don't know if you remember Big Kev that used to sell stuff. Yeah, she looked like him. So.
Oh goodness.
So yeah, but from around that time, from around the midpoint of it wasn't after September 11. There was a sort of like a lag effect of a couple of years, and then it really started to change, and you could see the militarization, if you will, of policing.
Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit more about? I know that you've had a lot of experiences during your time in the. I mean, you don't.
Yeah, no, of course. Look, I was what you'd call in the job, and I'm sorry to use the S word, but I was what they call a shit magnet. Like every job I'd go to would be something bad and traumatic events. Like I'd be the first on the scene at fatal car accidents. I'd go to jobs where it was just checking on someone and it would be a suicide. And I'd seen some of the most gruesome sort of things that you could imagine. There was one job in particular I went to that, I ended up the next day after no sleep, I ended up having to go in and clean up brain matter. You know, just these, I can't even put it into words. Like I'm fine talking about it, but it's just now I'm sort of so disassociated with those things. I feel like it almost happened to another person now, you know. It's pretty shocking, but these things, like over the years, you develop strategies, and this is something I'll talk about at the end as well, because I've got this little hack that I developed from your help that actually just clears it. And look, I think that's a good gift to give people too, because it's if we can help people along the way, that's what I want to do from these experiences. So but yeah, look, I was one of those things. I'd go to these jobs and they were just horrendous. You know, you'd go to things, you'd call in undertakers and they'd be vomiting. Like and I don't think people realize that when you're on the front line of policing, you're young guys that are in the divvy van driving around. They're actually the first ones. So you get called to a job, you don't know what you're going to. When you call in forensics and stuff like that later on, okay, they're told what the job is, they're told and they can prepare themselves mentally before they get there. But when you're the first responder to these sort of incidents, and you're confronted with it, the whole scene actually raw. It's very, very traumatic.
So you said the terminology shit magnet.
Yeah.
I have some questions around that. Was it something about you or your experience that you had more horrific job call outs than the average person, so to speak? Is that where that sort of phrase came from, because you seem to always be walking into unthinkable, situations?
Yeah, well, like I was working with guys that have been in the job for 15 years that had never been to a fatal car accident before.
Yeah, okay.
And I at one stage there, I had 4 in a month.
Mm.
You know, things like I went to a job. There was a car on fire up near Werribee Way, and we were sort of in the area. Thought, okay, it's just someone set a car on fire, no big deal. We get there, it's a bad accident. Try to break into the car to get the people out, and it was incinerated. Like as soon as we broke the window, pop, and the air got inside, and yeah. So yeah, things like that most people would never experience.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Feels like
you know,
you've witnessed it all then, based on
yeah.
just that brief. Why? You may not know the answer to this, and that's okay. Why do you think that was your experience? Is there something about who you are, your energy, your ability to cope? I don't know. Why do you think that was your experience when you were in the force?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that I question a lot, because some people seem to go through life and they don't have many bumps at all, and everything's just very vanilla. Where I think people that can handle it tend to have rougher experiences, because you need to always raise your level. You need to always grow. And I've always found, like, even through everything that we'll get into later, like my experiences have been a lot tougher than what other people would experience, because I do have that resilience, and I do have that inner strength to keep on going and to keep on pushing through things. So that may be it, or I might just be unlucky. So
I don't think it's unlucky, but yeah, I was curious to know if you had any insights around that. But I do agree with you. Yeah, I think
yeah,
one of those phrases that comes to mind is like, if you're the harder your path is, the higher the calling, or something to that effect.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, around 2007 though, like I did start to seek help. I was struggling, like, mentally, like,
Yeah.
um, as you can imagine. But like if you tend to reach out to, like, I tried counseling and all that type of thing, and you know what I mean, just to it wasn't working, just talking about things, because I was starting to get anxiety, and could start to feel the onset of all those type of things. And I went through a friend. I found a guy in Beveridge, which is just on the way out on the Hume Highway, just out from Melbourne.
Oh yeah.
And he does energy healing. And this was the first time I come across the concept that, okay, it's not your head that gets full that causes it. It's actually you regress all these things in your body. And when I first met him, we spoke about it, and he's like, look, he goes, if you want to know what it is, he goes, I can show you. He goes, I can explain it a million times, and I said, yeah, I'm up for it. He goes, look, it's going to hurt. He goes, but I'll push it out. And he goes, see what happens. So lay down on the table, and he pushed into one particular spot on my back. The pain that I felt, and the pain was immense. But once you breathe through that pain and let it out, like, I cried, and it wasn't like a normal cry, like a normal, I'm so sad. It was a guttural howl that went for about 5 minutes. I've never, ever experienced an emotional release like that. It was like all this tension I had in my body was just released through this crying sort of howl. So yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. And this is where I started to get into, obviously, yeah, there's a lot more that to this world that I had no idea about, and being able to feel that, and to
Yeah.
So after that I was sort of hooked to that sort of mind space and what your body is, and and yeah.
Because I imagine, and I don't want to put words in your story, but I imagine that if you had gone down the path of counseling and perhaps having assessment, you would have come back with high levels of PTSD.
Well, I did. I was actually retired in 2010 for PTSD.
Oh, I get,
I was,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I was actually, I was,
Yeah.
told that basically, son, you'll never work again. I was 35 at the time, and told to go out and never come back.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's intense. So from that point on, was that when you started to seek for alternative therapies or?
No, well, this was prior. This was about 3 years prior to being retired for
Yeah.
PTSD.
Oh, okay.
But
Yep.
yeah, so I started working with this guy, and we started doing these sessions and we'd go back to birth and to traumas you had when you were a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and just through different points on your body, like breathe through the pain, and then my eyes would start to flicker,
Mm-hmm.
and I could be actually in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't realize that, okay, you have ways of reacting to things, but if you can go back to that point in your life and you can see that child as it is, and you can comfort that child and tell them it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
then when you come back, you don't have that, you don't have the same reactions anymore to certain circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I never realized, but what I didn't understand is that working with this guy made me more porous, and made me, I've always been, what could I say? What's the word for it? Empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been an empath. I could always feel people's
Mm-hmm.
pain and the energy and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
this set it off to a whole new level. And I think that's what had a lot to do with my PTSD.
Yeah.
Was that I become so open and I become so porous to the pain and going to work, and yeah, it just got too much.
Yeah. Wow. That's so intense. Like I can't even, like there's so many things going through my head right now. But you already had that level of sensitivity. I imagine that you became at some point, I don't think it ever switches off, but whether it's through trauma, through addiction, whatever, I think we kind of get numb. We go into that numb state to cope. And then
Yeah.
once we start to go through the healing and release, it's like it lightens our energy, our body, so that we can have that level of sensitivity that we came in with. And then it makes it very hard to function, right?
Well, okay, perfect example, right? There was a young guy, he was only about 18. He walking up was it Flinders Lane one Saturday night with his girlfriend, yeah? Good looking young rooster, like just walking with his girlfriend, done nothing wrong. A guy that was having a psych episode ran past, stabbed him in the stomach for no reason. I get to the kid. I want to chase the crook, but the kid's on the ground. His parts of his entrails were coming out of his stomach. He just wanted to hold my hand, and the kid's that scared. And I'm like, okay, mate, forget about that. Other people can do that job. Just hold his hand until the ambos get there. Now, the problem was I could feel his pain. So, sorry, it makes me shake to talk about stuff like this, but yeah, I could actually feel his, like, not so much the pain of the wound, but his energy and how scared he was actually taking over my body, and that was when I first realized that was probably I needed to, yeah, because how do you tell your boss, like, oh well, yeah, I go to these jobs and I can feel this stuff, and that's what
Mm.
I'd end up in the balloon award at the Royal Melbourne Hospital there.
You're right.
So,
Yeah, I don't think there's any explanation around that, if you're going to be honest.
no, yeah,
Wow. Yeah, I wonder. You certainly have a high level of empathy, but yeah, to be able to, and it almost feels like you were absorbing so much of that as well,
yeah,
through those people going through those traumatic experiences. So that's very, very intense. Was
yeah.
that sort of? Do you think that was that tipping point of like, I'm kind of out.
Yeah, yeah, that was it. I went and seen the doctor the next couple of days, and as soon as I seen the doctor, told him, and I basically left.
Yeah.
Um, that was sort of it for me. And then as I was going through the process of getting retired, I would just leave Australia.
Mhm.
I couldn't stand being in Melbourne anymore. It was just everywhere I went was, I just needed to get out. And you know what doctors are like, especially around the psych space. Everyone wants to give you drugs, and I'm like, well, I don't want to take drugs. I don't want to numb myself.
Mhm.
I don't want to get drunk every day. I don't want to take tablets to numb myself. I
Mhm.
just need to heal myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Wow. I mean, that's just an inspiration in itself, because so many people go through, especially in that line of work, go through so much trauma and just do exactly what you said. But
Yeah.
you found an alternative path, and a way out. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah. Wow. Wow, Matty.
So
I'm learning more and more. The more you share, that's so fascinating. And do you still have that level of empathy? Like,
oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And it's actually a good thing.
Mm,
Like because people come in, people tell me stuff because I genuinely care.
mm, mm,
There's a difference. Like it's like when I talk with you. Like it's a different experience
mm.
because people actually care. So it's yeah. So it's different.
So, what was the calling to Thailand? Like, was there a calling? How did you? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I sort of traveled here and for years before. I started on the boxing circuit. That was sort of like a hobby that I always had. So the kickboxing circuit, I was on that, and I knew a lot of people over here through that. Um, I was a dive instructor as well. So on work holidays and stuff, I'd come across and teach them diving and stuff like that as well.
Mhm.
So it just sort of seemed like the best place for me was just a place in the sun where the beach is close and
Oh,
yeah.
sounds beautiful.
Well, just to make you jealous, I went for a swim this morning. Yeah, not long before the sun was bright. There's some nice waves out there. It was yeah, not a bad way to spend a Thursday morning.
Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine. I mean, we're winter now here in Melbourne, so you know what that's like.
Oh yeah, I couldn't do another Melbourne winter.
Mm.
But yeah, it was one of those things when I first come across here. I just sort of fell into diving, but I sort of got a name for myself because you get people that were scared to dive. So how I ended up doing okay with diving was that people that couldn't pass a course, people would call me up and say, look, they're scared, they want to do it, but they can't do it because they're just hopeless. So I'd be able to do a pool session with people and be able to get them to the point where, I don't know, like I could feel where they had the problem and where they had the issue, and I could sort it out in sort of 5-10 minutes.
Oh
So
wow.
and then people would say like they never thought they'd be able to dive,
Mm,
but because I could work out where their issue was and where their stress was lying,
mm.
yeah, I become pretty good at that type of thing.
You know what makes it? I was just like, I'm kind of in awe, and I'm like, wow, like, we talk about how there's healers or like whatever terminology you want to call it in every pocket, in every profession, everywhere around the
Yeah,
world. And you really are a testament to that, because you're not the you know, stereotypical healer per se, but your interactions and what you do with people is helping them heal, helping them achieve great things
yeah,
they didn't think that they were capable of, which is quite
yeah. And what better way for people to be able to heal than to be submerged in salt water?
right.
You know what I mean? Like the healing properties of just
Mm.
being in salt water is amazing.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, and it's all about distraction as well. People need to be distracted. So when you get them finally in the ocean and they can see fish and stuff, they forget about everything else
Yeah.
because they're too busy just being natural.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's interesting. I just reflect. I went diving when I was 16, and I had no problem at all. Just went straight in, and then I went to go diving again when I was around 25. Yeah, it was in a different country, and but I had real issues. I couldn't just go straight in like I
Yeah,
did when I was younger. I think as you get older, you kind of
kids are fantastic. Kids will do anything. But yeah, as you get older, that yeah, something in your head changes, and it's all these phobias come up, and yeah.
hmm yeah, yeah.
It'd be amazing to find out where they actually come from.
Mm.
All this anxiety and stress,
hmm
because you picked it up from somewhere. But yeah,
Mm. It's a bit like you were talking about before when you had that therapy for the first time and like releasing through the body and going back to what I like to go is always going back to the origins. Like if something presents, where is the core wound or trauma that's still stuck in your body, in your energy field,
yeah,
and working with that, So it's tracing it back to its origins, which is important.
yeah. So yeah, and just to move on, like I was here until about 2016,
hmm
and then we sold up everything here because I went back to Melbourne for 2 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, my mum's health was starting to get bad, and look, I was really lucky. I had a really good relationship with my mother. We were best mates. It was yeah. Like even when I was over here, like I would call my mum to tell her that I couldn't call that night. Like
Oh,
I'd call her for you know what I mean? Like we were that close that yeah.
yeah.
I'd just say, look, I can't talk tonight, but you know.
Mm.
And so yeah, her health was starting to go down a little bit. And yeah, I spent the last 2 years of her life basically every day sitting around having a good coffee and a chat. And yeah, it was it's obviously hard when a parent passes.
Mm.
But when you've been there for them and you've shared that time,
Yeah.
and this is what I tell anybody: if your parents are sick or whatever, drop everything, go and spend time with them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Because yeah, when it eventually does happen,
mm.
you'll understand that okay, that's the cycle of life.
Mm.
But you won't have any regrets because you've been there.
Yeah. You've had that
You know,
precious time. Yeah. Oh, what a
yeah.
gift. What a gift. So when was that? 2016?
2016, she passed in 2018,
Yeah. Okay.
and yeah, and then at the end of 2018, I come back to Phuket.
hmm hmm
And this is the fun part. Like this is where we come back and we thought, oh, we'll take over this small hotel. It's got a restaurant, bar, and it's only got 8 rooms. But yeah, we thought, nice little business for my wife to run, and for
hmm
my son to be around. Because, sorry, my son's 11 now. He was born in 2011. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so I only just moved back here, and then yeah, sort of my now wife got pregnant, and yeah, again, the best experience I've ever had in my life was the day he was born.
Mm.
It was, I don't know whether it's because I'm in tune with this stuff or whatever. That was the first time I felt like I'd ever been electrocuted. The moment he was born, I felt like I was being electrocuted. It was like the feeling was just amazing.
Oh, wow. Was
It 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 was like every memory that I'd ever had. It was just like everything was. Yeah, it was. That's the only way I can describe it. Like being electrocuted with emotion. So
And was that like the moment he was born? Was that the moment you first held him?
yeah,
Yeah.
no. When I first seen him,
When you feel,
yeah,
yeah, okay.
he had his eyes open, and yeah, it was yeah
Wow.
amazing.
I'm sure he's coming to light up this world and do some amazing things.
Mate, we're best mates as well. We just ever since he's been born, we're just inseparable. He's always at my side, always. So you know. It's and again that he's a big part of the story that we'll get to later. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So but yeah, so 2000 yeah we come back 2018. We took over this hotel. We sort of rebuild it up and everything like that. And I during 2019 because there was a lot of work we needed to do and stuff. So 2019 was okay. We're just opening, you know, and everything's going along well, and got a good customer base, and yeah, everything's great. And then, bang, you know what happened?
What I like to call the global initiation.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, right? Because over here we had an eclipse on the 26th of December 2019.
Mm-hmm.
We had a part in the early in the morning. It was about 8:30 in the morning. We had a partial eclipse,
Mm-hmm.
and then it seemed to be from that time. That was after that I started to hear about this COVID narrative, and then it, yeah, didn't think much of it at the start, and then yeah, so then we got up to what, March 11, and bang.
Boom. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So and
what date was that eclipse? 20.
I think it was the 26th of
Yeah.
December.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, my
Yeah.
life went kaboom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
because I remember we were all out the front of the restaurant, and we were watching it. It was amazing. So I'd never seen an eclipse like that before. So yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But little did I know
What
that was going to start 3 years of torment.
was it like what sort of eclipse was it? The moon blacking out the
Yeah,
sun.
the sun.
Oh, so it was
Yeah.
like the full. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, so geez, I wish I could go back and do a share and take back time, but yeah.
It's funny, there's this thing, like obviously what you're about to get into, and this theme about, you know, the reversals and then coming back around, but starting again in a better way. I've recently stumbled across this very short series, which is, it's a Spanish series, and it's basically the same thing. Someone like goes through a process of time travel and goes back to relive 8 or 10 years and come back, and then you know how those series of movies go, but it all started because of a moon eclipse. And when you just it's definitely the collective field.
Certainly is, and yeah, and that'll come back up later, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
what happened?
where were we? So anyway, yeah, so that happened. What? So 2020 sort of kicked off. We were okay initially for about the first 12 months, because I still had people staying in the hotel. Like, we didn't have to close because we still had people that were staying here long term. So the bar and the restaurant could stay open where everyone else had to close, but we're allowed to keep running. And one thing, look, I sort of realized at the start what it was, that there was sort of nothing actually going on, and no one was getting sick. No, everything was fine. But we did have these lockdowns where we were locked into our area. You weren't allowed to go to the beach, all that type of thing. They had a curfew in place from 9 o'clock at night where no one was allowed out on the street. So yeah, it was pretty brutal, but we were sort of okay because, yeah. And there's a lot of older guys that live around the area, and I was just getting them in to come and have a beer because, yeah, everyone was scared. Yeah. So I was like, yeah. So I was just running my bar like a good old fashioned speakeasy. It was good fun. It was actually amazing. We had a lot of good nights here. It was really, really good fun. So, but then it got to the point in 2021 where it was okay. They brought in, because the vaccine mandates and everything like that. If you didn't take the magic potion, then you had to close. Like, it was part of your licensing requirement. And yeah, anyone to do with a business actually had to show proof of yeah. Otherwise, you were just bang, closed, gone. So there was no more hiding from it. It was at that stage where I was like, okay, I'm done, because I'm obviously not going to allow myself to go down that route. So yeah, basically we were done from that moment.
And was there many people that made the same decision as you? Was there any pushback, or is it a different?
there was nothing. It was,
yeah.
yeah. The discussions the whole way were along, and I'd had these discussions with so many people that everyone was adamant. There's no way, no, I'm taking it. I'm not taking it. You know, you can take it if you want, but I'm not taking it. And then, as soon as they were introduced, people were lining up for it. And I'd say to people, but you said last week that there was no, but yeah, I want to be able to travel, or I want to be able to, you know. And yeah, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the change in people's attitude. It was like they were no longer the same, you know.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. I think that was the hardest part, seeing the change in people.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people have struggled with the most is, such a radical change. So that was it. When was that in? When was that in?
That was what, when we closed, or?
Yeah, that would have been halfway through 20.
Yeah, August 2021. So yeah, we packed everything up and yeah, went up to the northeast of Thailand, up near Laos. But again, while I was going out the door there, I found out my lawyer, who looks after all my paperwork and everything, he actually done something really wrong with my paperwork, and so on the way out, it ended up costing me a lot of money to sort out, and I won't go into specifics, but yeah, it was pretty bad. So for 9 weeks, I didn't know whether I was going to have to leave Thailand and come back to Australia. My son, he would only stay with me, but it wasn't as easy as just jumping on a plane and going back to Australia. We had to do quarantine. That was like $5,000 per person. To get a flight was like $3,500 per person. So it was all these considerations as well. So not only did I lose everything with the business, but then I was forced to make that choice. Do I go back, or do I? Yeah. So eventually, with a bit of after about 9 weeks of not knowing what was going to happen, we eventually got on our way and went up to my wife's property up in the northeast. So it's funny, like when you get up there, it's a village in the middle of nowhere, essentially. There's nobody to have a chat with. There's no bars. There's no anything. It's just a small little village, as I said, middle of nowhere. My son was doing school online, so it was sort of okay for him, you know. But yeah, just the isolation of that village, and essentially for the next 15 months, I didn't, other than doing a few podcasts on a friend's website, I didn't have a conversation with anybody in English in person for 15 months.
Wow.
So and about halfway through that time was when I spoke with you. So that was, yeah. So yeah.
So
try doing that. Try doing that. Like, other than obviously with my son.
Yeah.
Because yeah. But with anybody else, any conversation, it was, yeah.
So that period of time must have taken you through all sorts of feelings, like reflection.
Yeah. What I was doing every morning, I'd wake up, I'd go for a walk. That was my job for the day. Yeah, wake up. I had a 10 kilometer route that I set up, and every morning that was like religion. It didn't matter whether it was raining or hot or whatever. That was my job for the day. Walk that 10 Ks. So, and this is how I developed this little system that that actually, like, I was sort of coming up with it, and it was sort of working until I got the clearing from you. And then after that, I was able to sort of perfect this little system that I had. And then after that, the downloads and the what I started to get from that was amazing. If you want, I'll just quickly touch on it.
I'm really curious. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. What I do is, when you wake up, as soon as you wake up in the morning, just set aside an hour in the morning, wake up that hour earlier. Before you have a coffee, don't have a coffee, don't have anything, yeah? Just put your shoes on, out the door, and go, yeah? Don't listen to music. If you want, put earphones in. So so you don't get distracted by anyone or any other noises. But don't listen to anything. Just start to walk. You need a pen and paper, because you need to write these things down as they come up. Because if you don't write these concepts or these what could you call it? Those little messages that you get, or these little ideas. If you don't write them down, it's like trying to remember a dream. Like a lot of people keep a dream journal.
Yeah.
Because if you don't write it down, it's gone.
Yeah, if you don't capture it in that exact moment, yeah.
I've tried to record it, but you can't record it. You actually have to scribe it. There's something between taking the pen, writing it down, then it doesn't work any other way. So what I do, while I'm still half asleep, shoes on, out the door, go. As soon as that little inner monologue starts, you know, everyone's got it. Everyone that's human has an inner monologue. It's just the way it is. But we're taught not to listen to it. That's why people get into a car, straight away they put the radio on, because they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a simple technique. All you have to do is just listen. The first couple of times without that distraction of anything, you'll find that it'll be all over the shop. There'll be this idea, that idea, but you've got to try to limit it down to one idea at a time. And once you start thinking about it, write it down. Right, and you'll think of a person you haven't thought about in years. It'll just come here, and then there'll be something associated with that person that it was an experience at the time, or something that needs to be healed and acknowledged. As soon as you write it down, then I'd come back. I'd just write a quick paragraph on about, okay, try to remember this point. Write a quick paragraph on it. Come back at the end of the day. That's it, and burn it. And then that whole circumstance and that whole feeling that I would have about a certain circumstance was gone, and it's never come back up.
Wow.
So it's these little things that are stuck into you, that are trying to talk to you. They're saying, heal me. But you distract yourself. You put the radio on when you're in the car. You don't want to think about it. But these things want to come out. They want to be healed. But yeah, I think we just turn our back to it all the time.
I love that. I thank you so much for sharing that. It's interesting because I was thinking earlier before we sat down to record how I've often had conversations with people, and what has come out of it is that people who constantly have music on, and I know I can be guilty of it too, constantly listening to a podcast, you know, whatever, having radio on, is to tune out because there's so much trauma that's backed up that wants to release itself, and it's like you don't want to go there. It's just a sign of not being able to deal with that. So I love the fact that you have this your own healing meditative exercise all sort of thrown into one.
Well, it's funny because now there's some mornings where I say, because I do this every day, and I get people say, can I come for a walk with you? And I'm like, no, sorry, it's my time.
Yeah.
There's some days where I go, man, I just want to listen to a podcast and chill out.
Yeah.
You think I can listen to a podcast? I start listening to it, and then it's over the top. You know, it's just things come up and just want to yeah. So it's basically, it's like an alarm clock. It's my time.
And what have you so obviously you've been doing that for quite some time now. What have you noticed in obviously we've still got the good part of the story to share, but like, what things have you noticed? Have you noticed more lightness, more capacity to receive, higher guidance? Like, what have you noticed in the process of being able to go through that?
Yeah. Like I feel like a lot more, I do get like lightheaded, like a bit more. Like I feel like that I'm not weighted down like I was. It's a weird feeling. I feel, more like air rather than, there was one interesting one that I had actually not long before. It was probably the day before I left up there on my last walk. I was coming along and I got this like I started to think of the picture of the Ouroboros,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just thinking about it, and it's like, okay, I'm thinking about all the concepts that I've heard before, and I'm thinking, oh, it's this, and then this voice said, no, you idiot, it's simple. All it is a sign to complete yourself.
Oh.
Don't, and it was saying, don't look outside anymore. Don't look at a partner to complete you. Don't look at friends to complete you.
Mm.
Complete yourself, and everything will be fine. And that was one concept, because I've read so much about it before, but it was just like, it's just so simple. Complete yourself, complete your own energy, and then anything that happens outside yourself, you don't have to worry about. So yeah, I didn't realize it was so simple, but yeah.
Oh, I love that, because that's been such a theme recently, almost the exact message verbatim that comes through sessions. It's like, work on completing your own energy, filling yourself up, finding that unity, I guess, and that completely changes your external reality. So it's like, don't go out there and fix and fix and fix. It's in here, and then that, and you just said it. So cool. And the simplistic, yeah.
Yeah, because everything is inside you. Like the external world, we can't change. I think we realize that the last 3 years have been the biggest test on showing you. Like, I think we needed that slap in the face to say, well, actually turn it inwards, work on yourself, and then the world on the outside change. It's the concept of as above, so below. What's in is without. But now we're getting towards the good part.
Yeah, I'll just interject, because something's just, I remember when COVID started, and I kept getting these images of, like, almost looking at the globe, looking at all the houses, everyone internal, gone inside. And I was watching people's processes of them lighting up, right? And so the concept that came through was, the more people that go within, do the work, and start to light up, as we come out of that period, the world changes, right, for the better. And I don't think we could necessarily say, I mean, the world has completely changed for the better. Well, that's objective. When you're looking, but I haven't yet put out this information, because I'm still piecing it all together, but you're helping me put pieces of the puzzle together. And I feel like we're coming up to June solstice, which is just next week, coming up, about a week away. And I feel like that completes an entire 3.5-year cycle that was that global initiation period. So it's going to be interesting to, obviously you've been doing the work, and I have been in awe of how many people I see on a daily basis, a weekly basis, that are just working so hard internally and doing, and that just lights me up. And it's like, well, everyone is doing their own thing. That creates global change, just in that sense. So thank you for your contribution in doing your own internal cleanup and sharing this. So it's very exciting for me.
Yeah, but I think the whole thing was it was an internal war. Yeah. Well, it wasn't a war on the collective. They try to make it collective. Oh, everyone has to get this, whatever, or things like that. But when you look at it, it was what you would allow done to you. And that was, to me, pointing to me that it was an individual. It was a war against the individual.
Yeah.
And that shows you that you actually have to go internally and do that work, because So
wow, super cool. Well, the next part.
all right. So it was around it was January this year, and I was sitting around. I was looking at my son. Like, he'd tried to go to another school up there, but the schooling wasn't that great. So we were just doing homeschooling ourselves. And he said to me that he wanted to come back to Phuket and go to the school he went to originally. He'd been looking at photos and stuff and said that they were open again, and he wanted to come back to his original school. So to me, that was my call to action.
Yeah.
That was okay, because the most important part of my life, he'd done the research and wanted to come back here. So I contacted the school, and they said, look, they were completely full, that there was no spots available, but that we'd go on the waiting list. And because he'd been there before, he'd go number one on the list. And so that was it. 2 days later, we packed up the car, and I was just like, okay, we've got to go. We've got to go to Phuket. Now, it's about a 2,000-kilometer drive from up there to here. So I planned it out as a bit of a trip for me and my son, you know, like we'd stop at different places and all that type of thing. So, yeah, we had that call to adventure, and away we went. And the first day we were actually driving in the car, I got a phone call from the school to say that they had a spot for him and that he could start the next week. So I said, we're already on the way. And yeah, so yeah, we took that time. But when I got to Phuket, obviously it was what's considered the high season here. There was we could find sort of hotel accommodation, but there was nothing that we could find that was permanent. So we got down here, we stayed in a hotel for a couple of days, got him in a school, he was happy. But then we sort of realized then that, holy crap, we can't find anywhere to live. So a lot of the rental accommodation, houses and stuff, were being rented by people on holiday, and then they were subletting to other tourists and stuff like that. So yeah, this is where these little trials started to come along the way, you know, like yeah, it was a bit of a bumpy road. It was tough too, because like every day I'd have to check out of a hotel by 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, not knowing where me and my son were going to sleep that night. So it was, yeah, there was a few little meltdowns during the middle of the day a couple of times, you know. But I couldn't show it to my son when I picked him up. I had to be happy and just saying, yeah, we've got another place, you know. We're going to stay at this hotel. It's got a good pool or whatever, you know. Like, yeah, trying to be brave for the boy, you know. But internally, the doubts that I was having, I was just like, what have I done?
Yeah.
But yeah, look, after a couple of weeks, we did find a place, but it was sort of 40 minutes away from the beach in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't sort of your ideal place that you'd expect. Where I'm living in Phuket. We're living in like a little compound area that was all grey, and yeah, but it was a roof over the head. So
yeah,
and yeah, it was funny. Like at that time, I got in contact with an old mate of mine, and we've been friends for about 15 years. And I won't mention his name or the circumstance on how we met, because he doesn't want to be named or know that he helped me out. But yeah, we're really good mates, and we made contact. I haven't seen him since before COVID. So yeah, caught up, and he was a really good mentor with business and stuff like that, and always had good advice and help, you know, along the way. And yeah, really good guy. Yeah. So we were starting to chat, and you know, it was good. And he was always saying, you know, why don't you get back into business? Why don't you take your old building back, because it's the hotel was empty since we left it. And I'm like, oh yeah, look, it'd be nice. It's good to dream, but I said, you know, I'm not in the financial position to do it. So, and you know, over a couple of weeks, he's saying, well, you know, you should just feasibility study on it. You know, what it would cost and blah blah blah. And anyway, through those conversations, you know, like you start to feel like momentum's building up, and you're starting to, yeah, think outside the square, and oh yeah, that'd be nice, but whatever. So yeah, as it goes along, and then he had to go return home and stuff like that. And then a couple of days later, out of the blue, he called me, and he's saying, well, look, I've seen the way you're living, how you're just like living month to month, and and all that. And he explained like been friends for a long time, and I'd really helped him out on a couple of issues. And he said, I'd want to give you the money to start your business again, to get you on your feet. And I've never accepted anything before in my life. But the way, the genuine nature, and it come from his heart. You know, there's a difference when somebody says, I want to help you, but they're just trying to put you in a corner so they can, where this was heartfelt. Again, it was another time where I felt like I was being electrocuted with emotions, where I was overwhelmed and I didn't know what to say. But the gratitude and the feeling I've had, not only personally, but to everything I lost. I lost everything here. Everything was gone. And somebody had enough, you know what I mean, in their heart. So, yeah, to give it back. It was, so yeah, it was, I got in my car after that, and I said to my wife, I said, look, I just have to go for a drive, you know, like I can't sit here, right? I got into my car and my phone connected to the stereo, and it just played a song, yeah. And this is something that you'll have to look at later. It's a song called Aerials by System of a Down. And the lyrics in that song are all about how our life is water and a waterfall.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And it's basically all about the water theme. So yeah.
All right, I'll look that up. Wow. And did that song just drop in and just like
Yeah, I must have hit my phone or something, and because I chucked my phone down and it just played. It just come on. And yeah. So then within and this is only in April. This is only just happened. So 2 weeks after that, we moved back in here on the 8th of March. And obviously I've had to rebuild the place and everything. But and what I find strange about the timing was that the end of the WHO announced the end of COVID on the 5th, and 3 days later I moved back into my hotel and rebuild it to the point where it's better than what it was before. I've been able to streamline it. It looks amazing. I could never picture this place looking so good.
wow.
So not only did I lose everything, but everything come back, but everything is better than what it was the first time. Like everything. It's just, I'm on a roll with everything. And I don't know how it happened.
I have my thoughts, but
If I knew what the secret sauce was, mate, I'd tell you that I'd write it down and give it to everyone, but I just don't know what it is.
can I share from my vantage point?
You're the boss.
Yeah. Well, I guess just one vantage point is like the way that I've always understood this awakening pathway is that we go through these phases of losing everything, losing our minds, losing everything, from friends, family, like money, home, everyone's path is different, but it's designed that way so that we reconfigure our whole life. We go through that phase of our initiations and our dark night of the soul, and we change internally. And when we come back online, we're different internally. So then everything, based on what we've already talked about, everything else changes around us. And it sounds like all the work that you did in that time of clearing and digging deep and going on your morning walks and healing has allowed you to step into a more expanded version of your own life, your own reality, which is kind of magical. And it literally is full circle because you're coming around. It's the like the alchemist story, you know, where he started, he ended up realizing
Yeah.
that the treasure was always there.
It's amazing. Like in that period too, while all this was sort of happening, I did that course with Dale.
Mhm,
I did that course like in between. So I sort of was understanding like what was happening,
mhm.
but you also dismiss it because you're going through it at the time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a crazy. Yeah, I still just, but even now, like I can't look at like the news. I can't really look at alternate news or anything like that because I can see through it. Like it's, I I knew what it was before, but now I've got such clarity.
Mm,
Like I still observe it because you actually still have to know what's going on in the world, and but you understand the pendulum in between both and what it's trying to build.
mhm,
So I try not to get involved with it, but you still have to observe it because you still have to know what's surrounding you
mm,
and
mhm,
the stories that are surrounding. But yeah, I no longer consent to being a part of it either.
mm, mhm.
So it's yeah, and as you said, I think on one of your podcasts a few weeks back, it's that mastery of two worlds that you come back with. And this is something that I've like the strength that I have now. Like I've never known strength and drive and that I have now. Like I think when we spoke 12 months ago, I was a completely different person than who I am now.
Mm, mhm,
I didn't have the look in my eyes would have changed. The color of my eyes,
mhm,
you
mhm.
know. It's yeah, I've just got this. I know everything's going to be okay because I know now nothing can harm me.
Yeah.
Nothing can hold us back anymore. Like this is the thing. And people need to get that strength back in their soul because once you realize who and what you are,
Mm,
that you know, this whole system has been put up. It's just a smokescreen to stop you from looking at who you are.
yeah. Yep.
You know,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think now's the time because the more people do that, that the game's over, you know, the smokes and mirrors just dissolve and the true nature of reality emerges. So, wow. I,
of
I do have a curious question though, just
course.
based on like receiving. I know that people like yourself, myself, many of us have a hard time receiving because we're such givers and we put out and we do so much. What was that process like when that friend gave such a generous gift to you? Did that rattle anything within you? I mean, you spoke about how it was genuine and it was from the heart and it was like electricity, but was there any ounce in your um, being that was undeserving or had a
Um,
hard time receiving?
no, to
None.
tell you the truth, no, there was none of that. Like, and I would think that I would feel guilty about it,
Mm,
but there was none of that. It just felt so good that it you know, um, yeah, there's no guilt associated with it at all. It's actually a really good thing. And you know yourself when you help someone and you're genuine about it, just the fact that you've helped them and they've done well out of it
mm,
makes you feel good. That's your reward.
mhm, mhm.
And that's what he feels. He feels like by helping me, he's got that feeling where he feels fantastic
Yeah,
because that's his reward.
yeah, yeah.
And it's just good feeling all around.
Mm,
So yeah.
mm.
And he said to me that he would be offended if he couldn't help. Like
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
it was that important to him.
Oh,
So yeah, it was blow me away, man. It's yeah, it's an amazing thing.
and I love hearing stories about like what you've just shared, just those unexpected, I don't think I want to call it windfall, but unexpected miracle that just drops in your lap when things are aligning for you. And, you know, I'm so happy for you and in all you've sort of been through and going through the process of losing everything and then coming back to be back in business. But it's not just about everything that's been rebuilt bigger and better. It's how you're feeling within that's really
Yeah.
the most important thing. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. So you're back in
Crazy time.
business now?
Yeah, it's we haven't finished the rooms and stuff upstairs, but yeah, but essentially everything's pretty much done. So yeah, and will it go okay? I don't know, but um, just to get to this point, that's the win. Everything else will have to fall into place because it's got no other choice but to,
Yeah.
And I think people forget these things. Like your life and everything has got no other way to go but to work out.
Mhm.
You know, don't get stuck in these little troughs along the way. Keep on picking yourself up because it has to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that surrendering into trusting, that I think when you get beaten down or when you're going through it, you can forget. And it's like, no, no, no. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So are there any other tips or tricks or tools or things that you've gained along the way that have, I know you shared that one particular one with us. Is there anything else that you found that's really been helpful for you?
Yeah. For me, it's just to give away the fear, give
Mm,
away the people don't understand that, like, what I've always referred to the ACT realm, the alternative conspiracy truth realm. To me, this is the biggest thing that harms people
mm,
because they'll sit there and they'll say, you know what, tomorrow this is going to happen. Next week, the dollar's going to collapse. And then there's going to be, oh, you better start prepping. My
mm,
one is these people that tell you to start prepping.
mhm.
They're telling you to prep, but then they've got ads on their show to say food that's going to store for 5 years, and you're like, mate, they're trying to sell you something. You have to get that discernment to be able to understand
Mm,
that. Okay, even if you have this food prepared
mm.
and shit hits the fan, people are going to come to your house and take your food. You know that. You know what I mean? You know that you're just going to get rolled for your food, and like you probably end up dead because you've got food. You know, or you know, oh, the currency's going to collapse, so get gold. What's the first thing that happens when shit hits the fan again? They
Mm.
take your gold. You
Yeah.
know, it'd be a bit hard, trying to carry $100,000 worth of gold up in the prison wallet, wouldn't
Me and my dad have had
it?
very similar conversations. Very, very true. Yeah.
Like these people are trying to sell you something. So don't listen to all that doom because all it's doing is bringing you back into that headspace where you're going to be scared
Mm,
and you're waiting for things to happen.
mhm,
Dr. Zeus wrote a really good book, and I suggest everyone read it, called "Oh, the Places You Will Go."
mhm.
And in the middle of that book, he describes the waiting place,
Oh, okay.
and the waiting place being people that are just waiting for something to happen, and how that's the worst place in life you could be is sitting there waiting for things to happen.
Mhm.
Don't wait for them to happen. Go back and take it back now.
Yeah.
Right.
Intuitively guided action, stepping
Mm.
forward. Yeah. Even if it's little things every day.
But that's how it starts. That's how you put these things in a process.
Mm,
Listen to yourself. It's like it's like when you're a kid and your mum always says, "Listen to yourself." You know, that's one of the best reminders you'll ever get.
mm,
Listen to yourself. Listen to what's going on.
mhm,
Your your own soul wants to help you. That's your soul guide.
mhm,
That's your spirit guide. Is you.
mhm, mhm,
Listen to that, and yeah, trust yourself.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely
Yeah.
perfectly said. And coming back to that, like get prepared. Last year, I think it was around July sometime, I got a very strong message in a dream and I knew I had to put it out on social media. And it was basically the message was, and we're coming up soon to 1 year delta of that message. Um, the message was we can no longer hold off the events that need to happen on the planet. Get prepared. And I was like, oh. there was no other information, just that message. And so I had to sit with it to unpack to how I was going to convey it out there. But what it came back to was get prepared emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, so that you're in the best place. So it doesn't matter what happens in that external projection, that you're in a strong, solid place. Nothing else can harm you when you're in that place of pure trust and strength on all levels. You're unstoppable, and you're in your own creation of your own reality, and remembering that. And yeah, I think you're a testament to that. So thank you, Matty. That's so
Mate, no, and thank you. As I said, you were that kick in the backside that I needed at that point. That actually, and again, it's not like you told me what to do, but it was that clearing, and that gave me the space to be able to develop myself. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not like you spoon fed the information, but you were able to provide that space I needed to be able to, yeah, which is so important. And yeah.
And I think it is important, because when we're, and it doesn't matter how you do it, I mean, there's so many different ways, but when you're in old energy, old traumas, old stories, you're not creating space for expansion, are you? You that has to be dropped away to be able to have that clearer, I think that's what it is, to be able to have that clearer connection to your own soul, your own guidance, your own higher self, and then you can navigate anything. Oh, my ear's going crazy now. Well, thank you so much. We're going to wrap it up now. I think we've been going for over an hour now, but I just want to thank you so much for coming on, sharing your journey, sharing, parts of your life with us very vulnerably. And, that's really empowering. And I hope that those who've watched this, thank you for watching. And I'm sure there'll be many gems of takeaways. So I really appreciate that. But before we wrap up, any final thoughts or messages or anything else that you want to share?
No, just be kind to each other, mate, and yeah, just trust yourself, trust in yourself. And when you hear this stuff of do the inner work, remember it's not work. It's just listening to yourself. It's not work at all. There's nothing. It's just finding that little bit of time to spend with yourself every day, and all those little things really matter. So be kind to yourself. Cook yourself dinner. Cook dinner for yourself. Be nice to yourself. It's you'll treat yourself like you would someone that you're in love with. Treat yourself with that respect. Yeah. And I think that's how you'll get on top of it.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, thank you so much. Perfectly said. Reframing, it's not work, it's spending that time dedicated to self-mastery, and to be able to listen. So, and treat yourself as someone. I like that. I like Well, thank you so much again, Matty. I'm sure we'll stay in contact. Thank you everyone for watching, and keep it simple out there, guys, and stay in your heart-centered space and trust the unfolding, trust yourself. So thanks again. Until next time, bye.